It's one of those dreadfully quiet times in crypto land, but during these very quiet times is where very important things happen as well. So I do want to be following up on yesterday's short-term time frame analysis because Bitcoin boolas are seemingly digging their heels in here, and it is more important to be now mindful of what, if happened today, would imply that Bitcoin boolas are going to take over. We see the next higher low, and it's upwards and onwards probably in May as well. And of course, on the other side, if they fail, which would also probably happen today, what to look for on the other side as well. Anyways, let's just jump right into this one. First thing first, I do want to follow up on the meta signal over here that we spoke about yesterday. We do see that target one was actually just barely grazed. I think it was short by like 12 or 13 bucks, something like that. But in this case, play with it as you will. Play with them as you will. Anyways, I do want to follow up on just kind of a common question that I've gotten from this, and I totally understand, like, if you're not used to this style of trading, or if you just haven't, read MetaSignal's documents, when you're looking at their proposed stop loss, it's not done on a wick basis. It needs to be done on a closing basis. So in this case, while you do have wick lower below that, that theoretically stop loss, that would not have triggered the actual stop loss. It needs to actually close below there. So in this case, it's still open right here. And as we went over, target one does have a low 80% probability to be playing out. Target two is in like the mid to low 60s, I believe, and then target three is very low probability, like 30%. So again, these actually are a part of today's analysis as well, because if Bitcoin does, especially closed today back above target three, which I do think is like obviously very unlikely because very low probability. Well, that would be very indicative that Bitcoin boolas have confirmed the takeover for now. But going into our next chart, I do want to follow up on the daily HPR bands. We were looking at yesterday a very likely test to the daily median, which we did indeed get. And then the question is, how did price respond from there? If it bounced significantly, okay, this is the boolas chance. It's the bull's chance to put in a higher low, and it does seem to be that Bitcoin boola is going to try to dig in here. So what would you be looking for over the next, I guess, I mean, it could be today, it could be early next week, to kind of confirm that the boolas have done what they need to do, and it's time to be looking back onto the upside, probably, back above 70,000 bucks. Well, next thing that the boolas would want to see is back above Tuesday's high, which is 67,340 on CME. And I'm using CME price for this, by the way. Just understand there is a premium over spot price action. On the other side, if Bitcoin does trade back down and especially close below yesterday's low, expect a nice move, a very nice move, back down at least to 61,000 bucks, and technically speaking, probably a little bit lower than that, probably closer to 59, somewhere in that range there is where I'd be looking for, and that would be really indicative that the bears are going to take over, and we're going to see a more prolonged move into the $60,000 territory. I'm of the opinion right now that if you are going to see this market cycle continue from this particular posturing, meaning that we don't see a multi-month long correction, then you would expect that this, what we saw yesterday, is that next higher low. So that is kind of the theory behind this one. And of course, we go over here to the weekly. I should also aware you that we can see that Bitcoin actually pretty much has bounced off at the bottom sort of the 38.2 level as well. And while we do see volatility contracting here, that actually would favor the boolas, as it would imply that price action probably trades closer towards the median, which right now is 71,600. But again, that one's going to be closing today. We'll see how that one opens up next week and where that number comes in around. I expect it probably comes down a little bit. But yeah, one thing before the next. Anyways, let me just reference my notes back on over here. Okay, we got that. Yes, next thing, we do still see that daily stochastic momentum remains the upside. And also, we're going to see the 2-day time frame potentially come in, or it's not potentially, like it is going to come into collision with this regression that has been calling the low since August, September, and more recently January. Potentially, this one closes on Monday night, and the current pivot is 64,800. So an early, or potentially an early indication, I should say, because maybe this happens today, but by Monday closure, if Bitcoin is above that number and we see this start to curl around and twist here, that'd be another damn good indication that Bitcoin boolas are going to take over. We've essentially just seen the next higher low. On top of that, I should also identify that the weekly time frame, right here, this one is going to also fire off this week as well. This is something that we spoke about last week, but it didn't quite fire off last week, so I didn't really speak about it too much this week. But in this case, what are we looking at? We're looking at the full history of CME, and anytime that we have seen the weekly stochastic also to get into the critical zone, so above this 80 read right here, and then come back down that one on the first tick, throughout the full history of CME has six, at most of the time it's called the next major low. This has happened 8 times in its history. 6 of those 8 times, it was the low. I'll give you the most recent example, which has actually a lot of similarities to what we're looking at right now, which would be back on over in January, where you do see Bitcoin and goes into, like a couple month long correction right here, kind of similar to what we're looking at right here, since Bitcoin's been correcting since beginning of March. And we do see that first tick closing below the critical region right there. Boom, that essentially was on the low. We can see the examples before that. Again, this one over here, in terms of price, it was pretty much the low. Did it take some time? Fuck yeah, it did. But it was certainly pretty much on that low. This one, again, quite literally on the low. This one over here, pretty much on the low as well. This one over here, again, more or less on the low, especially if you look at the wick. I mean, like timing-wise, it was not. I mean, it still took another few months, but in terms of price, yeah, very, very close to it. Again, same thing over here, pretty much on the low. Same thing over here, same thing on the low. This one over here did not work as the low, and of course we have the ultimate failure, which was leading into the 2022 bear market, which obviously did not help at all. So fair enough. Anyways, this one is going to officially close below that critical zone today, very, very likely, unless the Bitcoin quite literally pops back above $66,000 by end of day. I think that's unlikely. But even then, I mean, that'd just generally be a good thing for the Bitcoin laws. So I don't know how much that'd matter in that case. It seems inevitable. Anyways, yes, we've gone through that. We've gone through that. Do I have any more charts over here? No, I do not actually. So I feel like I'm missing something that I should have been talking about, but perhaps it'll come to me later and then I'll be very, very mad, but whatever. Happens, man. Anyways, going back to this chart over here, I think that this one just accurately summarizes kind of my thoughts in a very succinct manner. Look, if you're bullish and you think that this market is going to continue into May, trending wise, which we went over yesterday, that is how things are set up. You would be looking at this as what we saw yesterday, that test down to the median that we were looking for as the next higher low. And you'd be expecting over the next few days here, maybe like latest end of next week, Bitcoin to pop back up and close above Tuesday's high. Again, I do want to call into the similarities on the weekly right here between that correction in January and what we're seeing right here. In terms of price action, looks kind of similar, but I'm not really a fan of that kind of shit. What I'm a fan of is how we look at on our oscillators. And as you can see right here, when Bitcoin put in that corrective low, it was right here on the HPDRO, which is exactly where the HPDRO is at right now, or pretty much exactly where it is at right now. And then also the HPDRV, you can see the same thing, very, very close to where the HPDRV rating is as well. So, if Bitcoin is going to continue up and going to continue on with this market, I think that we've seen the low yesterday. If that one does not hold, if you see yesterday's low taken out, meaning traded below and especially closed below, get ready for at least a move down to like 61, probably closer to 59, somewhere in that pocket there. Yeah, there's probably going to be another bounce attempt there, but I think it would be just that. I do think that Bitcoin would start to enter into a much more prolonged multi-month correction, and we'll see where the monthly ends, but that could massively change things for myself. And by the way, even just mentioning that yesterday, holy shit, reading some of the comments, like I understand that most people on this channel are very, very reasonable and just like, logical people. But for some people, that was like, I killed their firstborn kid. Sorry, man. It's like you get mad at numbers. Like, what the number 2? Fuck you. I fucking hate you, man. You said the number 2. Fuck you. It's like, whoa, Jesus, man. Relax. It's going to be okay. Maybe not for you. Obviously not for you, but you're still going to be alive. The world's still going to go around. All right. There's more things important than money. Well, at least that's what you tell yourself when you lose a lot of money, right? Anyways, we all do it. We all fucking do it. But there is, right? Spiritual and all that good stuff. But yeah, you still need to buy your fucking food at the end of the day. So, hey. Maybe it's duality. Maybe it's both. And that's my spiritual happy message for the day. I'm going to be signing off on that note. Again, be mindful of, there it is, the mindfulness, Tuesday's high. It doesn't need to surpass that today, but basically that's where you'd be looking for over the next few days or next few closures. And below yesterday's low, it's going to be trouble city, especially if you see a closure below there. Yeah, there's there's chance for a bounce at 61 and 59 respectively, but that would start to look a lot more suspicious, let's say. Anyways, that's going to do it for today. As always, take care, much love, and fuck you, and see you tomorrow. Which will go over actually a much more important thing that for the long term does suggest that this, very likely is a major opportunity. All right, there we go. Bye-bye.